Welcome to the Set of Destiny.
Onke, thank you so much for having me. This is an incredible honor. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity. I haven't been sleeping thinking about this, so thank you.
When it comes to your life and when it also comes to your book, the idea of time is quite interesting because if anything, you talk about seasonal shifts.
Yeah.
In every season, there is an instruction for everything.
Yes.
And I think that, having read your book, Baked in Pain, an incredible read, your life really alludes to the seasons of it, to the instructions of the different seasons,
Yes.
and how you manage to maneuver through them. I would just like to understand what your perspective is on seasonal shifts.
I actually think it's an incredible thing to watch seasons change. It's probably one of God's best gift to us.
Yeah.
Because this idea. I sit out in my garden all the time and watch what happens to the trees when winter comes or when autumn falls, and what happens when spring comes, and just that metamorphosis, that transformation for me is just the most inspirational. And having gone through incredible traumatic times as a child, I always hung on to this idea that someday my season's going to change. Yeah. I always hung on to this idea that I might be going through an incredibly deep and dark time, but light will come in the morning.
Absolutely.
And in a way, that in itself is very empowering.
I just think for the benefit of people who might not have read it or don't know you personally, can you take us through some of the dark winter days of your youth, of your childhood, just some of the experiences that kind of led you to always have this constant thing in your mind that a seasonal shift in your life will happen?
Yeah, I think besides the fact that I was essentially born a rejection.
Yeah.
My mom and my dad were hoping that I would be the boy that saves their union.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wasn't, and needless to say, that didn't last beyond my birth, essentially. And so you carry that rejection with you right from birth, because the one thing that we always underestimate is the energy we transfer to our children when they are born as parents. And just a couple of months after that, my mom leaving my dad and growing up in the Transkei, where she also abandoned me for years, and growing up knowing that I was an orphan, and when you're growing up without your children, without your parents as a child, you have this life that is empty, because in fact to some degree you feel partly that you're at fault for what's happening around you, because you don't have parents to protect you, and maybe they died because of you, or as a child a whole lot of stuff goes through your mind. But as I grew older, I remember one day my one uncle, who used to be incredibly physically abusive. He was an alcoholic, and I would get beaten up every day. Like, I always had a blue eye because I didn't switch on the lights at 6 o'clock in the evening, or I didn't cook what he liked, or for any and everything, or just me sitting and doing my homework.
Yeah.
I'd get beaten up for that.
Yeah.
And in a way, I would sit there and tell myself that I'm just going through this now. Someday I'll be older. Someday I'll own my life. I have no control over what's happening to me.
Is there a sense of gratitude for being baked in pain?
There's a deep sense of appreciation of my purpose. Because without all of that, my story wouldn't be my story.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not that I woke up and suddenly found that maybe God picked me for this life. No, I've always known it, but I had to go through it. I had to go through it.
You had to walk through the valley. You had to walk it.
I had to sit in that valley, walk through it, and then grow into my purpose.
Yes.
I don't believe that a purpose is something that you born and you know exactly who you are and where you go. It's a process. It's a transformation. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
And I've always known that surely, because I used to have these conversations with God when I was younger, because if it wasn't the tree that was my best friend, I only had God to talk to. And it was like, surely there must be a reason why all these things are happening to me. And surely there must be a reason why I was even born, because then I shouldn't have been here if I wasn't meant to be born. But I was born. So let's talk about what is it that you're trying to do with my life. And in a way, that whisper, that promise was there from when I was young. I just had to go through my life and grow into my purpose. And it's a very humbling thing to know and appreciate.
How has your purpose-led approach, how has it informed who you are as a leader or how you lead?
First of all, when you are purpose-led, everything comes from a deep place of appreciation, deliberate, and respect, and honestly and genuinely wanting people to succeed.
Yeah.
Because somehow I know what it's like to not have a decent life, to have your dignity stripped away from you. I mean, I always reflect back on how would I like to be treated, and when I was younger, how would I have liked to be treated? So I'm more a nurturing leader because of my purpose. I'm not in any way a pushover or a soft leader, but I am a very fair leader. And I really believe in treating people with the respect that they deserve and treating them as people, whole human beings. Whole human beings first before the job. In fact, half the time I'm just like, the job will take care of itself.
Yeah.
If you are not well, if you don't feel challenged, if you hate coming to work, that's an indictment on me as a leader.
It doesn't serve any of us.
No, it doesn't. And I really want people to bring themselves wholly to everything that they do. And if they feel that they are being appreciated and valued for who they are, rather than what they give to the company, then they're more inclined to give more to the company, in fact. So my purpose-led ways, in every way, in any event, you can never be a great leader if you haven't mastered self. If you haven't mastered yourself, chances of you being a great leader are 0 to none. And I will boldly claim that. Because if you don't know who you are, where you've come from, where you're going, what your triggers are, what drives you, why you wake up every day, it's really difficult to have an appreciation for what other people go through.
I had the joy of coming to your office recently, where I met one of your colleagues, Catherine, and there is an incredible energy of love there, and there is this new wave of love-led leadership.
Yes.
And leading in such a way, as you said, that looks to the person first.
Yes.
And then in the context of the work, because the work doesn't happen, the clients don't come in, the billing, the revenue, all of that stuff doesn't happen if the people themselves don't align with your vision and see themselves in it.
Yes, absolutely.
What was your inspiration behind Uyandiswa, besides the fact that you're brilliant at project management?
Yes.
What was your inspiration behind it? Because even the name lends itself to that,
I actually, I knew that my time in corporate had come to an end because I started feeling like I'm wasting my time. I would sit in meetings with the top executives at my last job, and instead of feeling incredibly blessed and inspired that I'm sitting around and discussing big things with these people, I in fact just sat there and thought, what am I doing here? Not in an imposter syndrome kind of way, is this really how I am spending my life? And I felt that I had come, the time had come for me to get out of the four walls.
Yeah.
Because you're incredibly protected when you're inside the four walls, but you're also deeply, deeply deprived of real life because you talk to the same people every day, you talk about the same things every day, you keep repeating what you discussed in the last 3 months, and there is no real connection with real people out there, and because it's your network is just in those four walls.
It's insular,
and highly insular, and I found that, you know, a lot of people that I worked with, their views get more and more myopic because there's no diversity, and I really wanted to come out and directly impact society, me, Amanda, directly to not indirectly, via. And I really wanted to be at the forefront of creating jobs in this country. Because once you come out of the four walls, the reality really hits you, and it hits you hard. And these are the same kids. Say I was their age, had the hope, I got myself through university, standing at the corners of traffic lights, dishing out pamphlets, doing stock taking at supermarkets till 1 a.m. I worked hard to get myself through university. And I see them, and they've got their degrees, and they're sitting at home doing nothing. For me, it is incredibly depressing to see that, and I cannot create enough jobs. And it's not something that just one person must worry about. It's as a collective, as a nation, we really should be ashamed of where we are with our children and the lack of opportunity for them, even when they were promised that education is the key to success. In fact, I think, you know, once you've come out of those four walls and you're faced with this reality, you have a deeper appreciation of the role that you play in building the nation. I really wanted to be a nation builder. But also I actually wanted people to have a home, you know, in a small corporate, because that's really what we are. We're a highly sophisticated, highly efficiently run company that has none of the corporate nonsense, none of the corporate culture, the red tape, the backstabbing. Of course, there's human dynamic, but you know what I do? I can hear it. I walk out of my office and I'm like, let's talk about that. What's happening? So, and I am directly responsible for many people's lives, putting food on their table, enabling their dreams. And I mean, there's nothing more I can think of that could be more of a privilege and a great platform. So that was really why I had to start Uyandiswa. Uyandiswa actually means you've been grown, you know, and in a way it ties up to my story about evolution and transformation, you know. And I also wanted to show people that it really doesn't matter where you've come from. You can build your life, and you can build a life of impact. Not just for yourself and your children or your family, but actually your society at large. And that this notion of, you know, black women don't have opportunities or can't rise, glass ceilings. I mean, I went and took on the big 4 consulting firms in this country, and I am winning every single day.
Do you think that we are at a point where entrepreneurship needs to be made as more of an everyday, not easily doable, but easily to, you know, just something that's a bit more accessible to people in terms of how to create it? Because I think we've moved past the phase in this country where entrepreneurship is there in a corner for people who, you know, have an MBA from, an institution, as opposed to saying you have an idea, you actually should do it. You have the responsibility to create your own business, regardless of whether you're working or not. Do you think that really is the shift in energy that we need today?
I think so, Onke, because I'll tell you, I mean, I've got 3 children, as you know, and my son, who will be 9 in November, is somehow not quite enjoying maths. I'm not going to say he's struggling with maths, because I couldn't be bothered.
We don't use those words.
But he is thriving in everything else. He builds models of airplanes for hours on end. He will build with his hands, anything he sees. He's great in drama. He plays drums. He's played guitar. He's, you know, but you get called to the school because he doesn't sit still for 10 minutes and listen in maths or finish his maths. And I'm like, I keep thinking about it every day. I'm like, I wonder what he's going to do with this maths anyway. Because I didn't do any maths. I did maths, of course, and I failed it in high school.
But you run a company that is highly dependent on data.
But it doesn't mean I have to be the specialist.
Absolutely.
I will hire the right people to do it. But the conversation I'm trying to get to is that our schooling system is still educating our children for professions. So you must have maths to be able to be an engineer, to be an accountant, and etc. But
and not one that nurtures ideas and creativity.
And I always feel like, and I mean, this I'm highly passionate about. I always feel like we our kids, we try to it's square pegs being fitted in a round hole.
Yeah.
And their reality is different. They have grown up with technology. They're growing up with highly enlightened parents.
It's a different nature versus nurture conversation.
No, it is, absolutely. But we keep forcing them into corners that they really
are not interested.
They're not interested in, they're not passionate about.
Yeah.
So what I would like really is to see more entrepreneurship becoming a conversation at the dinner table. When your parents ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or aunts ask you that. The first thing that they should be recommending is start your own business, not get employed by somebody. Yeah. Because then you end up with this cohort of people who are all employed by somebody. But they then want to try entrepreneurship, but they're not trying it for the right reasons. They're trying it, what it's like, I want to be boss lady, people are trying entrepreneurship as a status card, as a glamour point, but the same people that will post on Instagram about how successful they are, they come running to some of us needing help, to struggling, this and that, which is also the untold truth of entrepreneurship. And I do believe that if we change the narrative in our homes, I don't care what my children want to become. I just want them to become whatever and whoever they want to become. Just become whatever you want to be. There are no rules around. No. I've had the girls, because children also model themselves, according to the people around them. Yeah. The one wanted to be a housekeeper because, Sis Patricia is just the best, mama. And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And the other one wanted to be a teacher, wanted to be a hairdresser because they're the best hairdresser. But the more they grow into their own passions. Yeah. So I think we have to encourage our children to, and whether it's children by birth or people we nurture or young people, there is, though, the challenge of access to opportunity and access to networks, which is not something that comes overnight. That comes from having built it up over years. And a lot of businesses fail because people do not have access. And access is, in fact, the greatest privilege of all. Access to decision makers, access to just women and men who can mentor you, just access. And forget about funding, just access to opportunities and access to role models. So I definitely think we should encourage our children to get into entrepreneurship. But also we must encourage those who really have to stay employed, to be employed.
Not everybody.
There's no shame in it.
An entrepreneur.
Yeah, there's no shame in it. And I really don't like this idea that if you're not an entrepreneur, then, you're less
not a
than,
success.
No, there's been highly successful corporate people. I mean, that's been a way. And not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. It is incredibly difficult. And it is difficult to stay on course. I always say to people, the reason you started is the reason that sustains you. And if your reason for starting was warped towards you, chances of you succeeding in the long run are quite slim. Yeah. But that's a topic for another day.
My parting question to you is, what is the decision that you've made, the best decision that you've made about yourself and the best decision that you've made for yourself?
I think my life has been one string of decision after another, having started from a very early age. But firstly, I must say I'm incredibly blessed and really fortunate to be the one doing this cover, this comeback cover, this this iconic brand that has meant so much to so many. And I think it's an incredibly emotional time in a very good way. And I literally, I just kept saying to God, wow, you're doing that again. You're putting me on this platform, and the message is consistent and it's clear. And it's a message of hope, it's resilience, it's persistence, it's rising, it's rising and owning your destiny. And for me, I made a decision when I was in my younger years. I made the decision that someday I was going to get out.
Amen.
And someday I was going to get out of the dark phase of my life, and that someday I would own my life. And the decision was, don't run away, don't become a prostitute, don't go and turn to drugs. Just keep your head down, take what you need to take, but remember that someday you're going to come out of this, and someday you're going to own your life. And another very key decision I made was, I'm not my mother's mistakes. And for me, that came at a time when I was transitioning into my 20s. I remember very well, I was 23 years old. And I said, you know what? I am not the rejection. I am not the shame of the sexual abuse. I'm not any of those things. Those are just things that happened to me. They are not who I am. And that day forward, I made a plan, and I decided that I am going to work on myself to become the person that God meant for me to become the person that I wanted to become.
Brilliant.
And not to be defined by other people. So those come to mind immediately. But I mean, I make decisions all the time, as we all do.
As we all do, and I think we are blessed that you could be our decision. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.